Nancy Rosetta Whitehead was born in New York in 1822. She was called Rosetta. Rosetta was the third of 10 children born to Halsey and Nancy. At age 10, Rosetta traveled with her parents and siblings to Bloomfield Township, Michigan. They intended to farm and cultivate the Michigan wilderness, but after 5 years, determined the land there was too poor to farm successfully. So in March 1837, the Whitehead family moved on, to Argentine, about 40 miles away. It's easy to find where their farm was located, as they eventually donated a piece of their land for the Argentine cemetery. This area turned out to be much better for farming, and the family stayed. In fact, Rosetta would spend the rest of her days in Argentine. The first occupant in the cemetery, at the time called Whitehead Cemetery, was Rosetta's youngest sister, Rebecca Jane, who died in 1838 at just 2 years old. With help from the neighbors, the Lobdells and the Bennetts, a walnut casket was made, and Rebecca Jane was carried into the woods and buried. The following year, Rosetta's older brother Andrew died at age 17 and was buried near his younger sister. On February 8, 1844, 21-year-old Rosetta married John Barron, a 24-year-old farmer who was born in Ohio. Rosetta and John worked hard together on their farm, and eventually had 7 children and a large, beautiful home. But Rosetta would also live through much tragedy and sadness. Their first baby, Emma, lived only 17 days. Edward was their next child, born in 1846. Edward married Elva, had 2 children, and lived a long life, dying at age 75. Ellen was born next, in 1849. She too lived a long life, marrying and having at least 3 children before dying at age 90. Richard was born next in 1851. Sadly, he died at only 17 years old of tuberculosis. Agnes was born next, in 1853. She also died tragically young, at only 19. She also had tuberculosis. The 2 youngest children were Thomas, born in 1856, and Mary, born in 1861. Thomas married and lived to age 73. Mary lived to age 68, married, and had at least 2 children. Rosetta also lost her husband to tuberculosis in 1844 after 42 years of marriage. I was really struck by how much Rosetta's daughters looked like her, even the way they all parted their hair in the center. I also thought it was remarkable to find several photos of Rosetta in the same pose. It's so fascinating to me to see her aging so clearly. She died in 1902 at age 80.